I drink 3.8 liters of water per day. I know it may seem a little bit excessive, but given that I'm in the gym 6 times a week and I'm just a very active person in general, I find that this is appropriate for my body. This is just what works for me. 3.8 liters per day. This is true whether I'm in the US, Asia, Africa, or Europe. And the only real difference between drinking my 3.8 liters here in the US and my 3.8 liters in Europe and in the Netherlands in particular is that my 3.8 liters of water here comes from the fridge, whereas in the Netherlands that 3.8 liters comes from the tap. You see, one thing that I quickly realized upon arriving to the Netherlands was that tap water is actually drinkable, but not just drinkable, it's actually good. You see, the tap water here in the US, it's drinkable in a lot of places. Some places it's definitely not drinkable, but some places, most places really, it is drinkable. But I would say it's tolerable at best. In the Netherlands, the tap water is literally so good that I don't think that in the entirety of my 14 months there, I saw a single water fountain or a single water filter on a fridge. I never saw it, 14 months straight. Here, okay, as soon as I got to the airport, I immediately saw water fountains, and my parents, they have a water tap on the fridge, a water filter rather. You see, again, the tap water here, while it is drinkable, it's not really advisable to drink the tap water, especially if you're gonna be drinking 3.8 liters of it per day. That's the first habit that I only ever practiced in Europe that I never practiced in the US, drinking the tap water. I think that comes as a major surprise for a lot of Americans when they go to a place like the Netherlands where you can really drink the tap water and it tastes good. The tap water there tastes just as good as the filtered water here in the US. Now, it's very interesting because America is the wealthiest nation on the planet. I mean, according to pretty much every statistic that I've seen, America is unequivocally the wealthiest nation on the planet. And yet for some reason, they can't seem to get the tap water to taste as good as Dutch tap water. Why that is, I have no idea. If you know more about why this is the case, please enlighten me in the comments. Please enlighten me, because America is not devoid of engineering talent. They should be able to figure this out. But I don't know, maybe they just don't want to. Maybe it serves the interests of different companies that could benefit from the lack of high quality tap water. I don't know. That's just a theory or a hypothesis, if you will. But one thing that I know is that for the entirety of my 3 months here, okay, I'm here from March, the end of March to June, I'm not going to be drinking the tap water. I would literally rather go thirsty. I would really almost rather be dehydrated than to drink the tap water because, again, even though it's tolerable and it's doable, it just doesn't taste very good. It doesn't taste very good. And I remember the first time my girlfriend visited me here in the US, one of the first things that she pointed out was that the tap water here just doesn't taste very good. In fact, she said that it tasted almost like sewage. Now, how she knows what sewage tastes like, I don't know. I didn't ask her, and I don't really want the answer to that. But I think I get what she was trying to say. It just doesn't really taste as fresh. The Dutch tap water tastes very, very fresh. Now, it did take me a long time being in the Netherlands to develop the confidence and courage to drink public tap water. So it's one thing to get tap water from the sink at my girlfriend's parents' house or whatever. It's another thing to go to the bathroom in the gym and drink that tap water. That took me probably 11 months to build up the courage to do. But once I did it for the first time, I realized, oh, this is the same tap water. The tap water is the same no matter where you go. Because those Dutch people, I don't know what it is, but they seem to have figured that out. I do not drink the tap water here, but I always, exclusively, drunk tap water in the Netherlands. Now, the next thing that I did in Europe every single day that I never do here in the US is signal while cycling. So you can see in the background, I did ride my bike here. So I can't sit here and lie to you and say that I don't cycle here. I do cycle whenever I get the chance because I just love cycling. I think that this is one Dutch habit that I'm gonna keep with me for the rest of my life, because although I'm in the gym 6 days a week, to my point earlier, I do understand that there's going to come a point in time in my life when I'm not going to be able to go to the gym and do pull-ups with 2 plates strapped around my waist. I'm not gonna be able to do that when I'm 80 years old. It doesn't matter how well I take care of myself, my body, my muscles in particular, are going to start to deteriorate. That's why you don't see a whole lot of 80-year-olds who have the same physique that I do. That's just life. But one thing that I did see a lot of in the Netherlands specifically, and this really broke a limiting belief for me, because you never see this in the US, but one thing that I saw a lot in the Netherlands was older people cycling. I would see these groups of probably, let's just say 75 to 85-year-olds. You can't really determine how old they are, but they all had gray hair, or they were all bald, but they were very, very old. I would see these groups of old people cycling together, and not only did I find it to be very wholesome, I actually found it to be incredibly inspiring. But that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is things that I do in Europe that I don't do here. So again, I do cycle here, but when I cycle here, I don't use the hand signals. So I actually didn't really know this was a thing. I never knew this was a thing until probably 4 months into my stay in the Netherlands, because growing up, we don't learn hand signals whenever we're cycling, because it's just not advisable to cycle around cars to begin with. It's more of an unwritten rule that if you're a cyclist, you just stay on the sidewalk if you can. Now maybe the people who cycle for recreational purposes, the people who have those $10,000 road bikes, those people probably know the hand signals, but I can assure you that they did not learn those hand signals in school like Dutch people do. This is something that I find very fascinating. Dutch people, well, I guess it's not necessarily a surprise, but it caught me off guard when I first heard about it, because we don't have this, but Dutch people actually have dedicated cycling classes when they're in primary school, or as we Americans call it, elementary school. They have cycling classes where they learn cycling etiquette. And I think that something like this could go a very long way in terms of helping to redefine cycling culture here in the US, because if nothing else, it'll at the very least help people who will eventually become drivers, who will get behind the wheel of multi-ton cars or weapons really. It'll help them develop a bit more empathy and courtesy and understanding for pedestrians and cyclists. But right now, in the same way that I didn't really know a lot of those hand signals and what they meant, most Americans don't either. Most Americans are not going to know what those hand signals mean, so there's no point in doing it. There's no point in doing this when I'm going to turn left, because they don't know what that means. Or even if they do, they're still going to assume that they have the right of way anyways. So realistically, the only time that a hand signal on a bike is really useful is if there's other traffic around you. But of course, there really isn't any other cycling traffic around me. Generally, when I'm cycling, I'm the only person or one of the only people, and there isn't enough traffic to really warrant doing the hand signals. But more often than not, the traffic that surrounds you is vehicular traffic, it's car traffic. And again, even if they knew what these hand signals meant, they just assume that they have the right of way most of the time anyways. So there's no point in doing it. But in the Netherlands, not only is it advisable to do, I'm pretty sure it's legally required. I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure that this is legally required. And I'm sure that if you refused or neglected to hand signal in front of a police car, they'd probably pull you over. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but that's just what I would assume, because people in the Netherlands seem to be very diligent about using those hand signals. But out here, it's pretty much useless. You can do the hand signal, you can have the right of way, and you can still get hit. Now, the next thing that I did exclusively in Europe that I never do here in the US is ride public transit. Now, why is this the case? Well, the reason why is because, at least here in the city that I live in, the city that I grew up in, we just don't really have access to public transit like that. We just don't have access to it, and I'm not gonna lie, it does kind of piss me off, because now that I've realized not just how much cheaper public transit is, but how much more efficient it is. As somebody who likes to multitask, being able to be on the bus while also doing something else, maybe doing a Duolingo lesson or coming up with video ideas and jotting down some notes for videos like this, I mean, that is invaluable because you can't get that time back. When you're driving, that's all you can really do is drive. Maybe you can eat or something like that, you can talk, but you're not really gonna get away with coming up with comprehensive video ideas while driving a car. At least if you are a responsible human being who values not only your own life, but the lives of other people. And we don't have that opportunity here in the US. We just don't have the opportunity, and it really, really bothers me because especially in a place like Dallas where a lot of things are too far away to rely on cycling, and again, car culture takes precedence over cycling culture, at the very least, there should be a consistent and extensive bus route. There's no real excuse for there to not be a comprehensive busing system that goes through this suburb that I live in. But for some reason, it just doesn't exist. I think we might have a public bus. We might have one, but it doesn't really go anywhere. I think there are maybe a few stops in my city that I live in. And again, the city's so spread out that cycling to those stops would take so much longer than driving that it's better to just drive. So I don't really know why this is the case. I guess maybe they don't have enough revenue to do it, or they're just not using the revenue efficiently enough. I don't know. That's getting a little too deep into politics, and as you know, I'm an apolitical person. I just know that, I mean, I keep track of my finances, so I can't really understand why the government, whether it's the local government, state government, whatever, I can't really understand why they can't be as stringent about their finances as I am about mine, because I don't see how, again, a public busing system would really cost that much money. And even if it does cost a lot of money, it's going to return revenue back to them. And I know this because I myself spent, I don't even know how much money on bus and train trips while I was in the Netherlands, but if you assume an average of maybe €4 per trip each way, that's €8. And for people who take that trip every day, that's gonna add up. So I don't really understand why they refuse to add that in. To their credit, I will say that there is a train line here in the DFW area. It's called the DART train. I think it stands for Dallas Area Rapid Transit. So we do have something there, but again, it doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't go to the places that I personally frequent. And I think a big part of the reason why that's the case, and I could be completely wrong about this, this is just my theory, but I've noticed that the train line, the DART train, doesn't really go through very affluent neighborhoods. It tends to kind of avoid the affluent areas, and I suspect that this is because the residents of those affluent neighborhoods probably don't want that to happen, and they exert their influence to ensure that it doesn't happen. They don't want trains to go through their neighborhoods because I guess they don't want their neighborhoods to be accessible to commoners or whatever you want to call them. And it doesn't really make sense because realistically, I mean, even if you had a group of thieves get on the train and go to these affluent neighborhoods, what, are they gonna steal a flat screen TV and then get away by train? It doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know why that's the case, but all I know is that it affects my day-to-day life here in the US. And just moving around is much less efficient because of the lack of public transit. And I really, really hope that sometime within my lifetime, I get to see the day when the US catches up to or even surpasses the Netherlands and other parts of Europe when it comes to public transportation. Now, the next thing that I did pretty much exclusively in Europe that I never really do being back in the US is travel to other countries. So I know this is a bit contradictory because obviously I traveled from the US to Europe. So I did travel internationally, but it was such a big novelty that I literally felt compelled to start creating content. Really, I felt compelled to create a whole entire brand around that move. Whereas people in the Netherlands probably aren't going to start a YouTube channel talking about the differences between the Netherlands and Germany. Maybe they will, maybe they do, and I'm just not aware of it. And if they do, power to them. But I would imagine that that probably wouldn't do as well simply because everybody in the Netherlands has been to other countries. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody. I have yet to meet a single person who is Dutch who has not been to another country, regardless of income level. They've all been to other countries, be it Germany, Austria, Belgium. Doesn't have to be countries very far away, but they've been to other countries. And even when I was in the Netherlands, I mean, we took a train ride to Belgium. I think from where we were, again in the Kaatsheuvel, Waalwijk, Sprangkapelle area in Brabant, it maybe took about an hour and a half by train to get to Antwerp. Probably about 30 minutes by train just to get to the border of the Netherlands and Belgium. So it was just a very casual trip, and there wasn't really a whole lot of security clearance required. We just got on the train and went. And that was that. I don't even think they asked to see our passports, if I recall correctly. But we also went to London. We went to the UK. We took the bus, not the public bus, but we took this sort of travel bus. If you're Dutch, you know what I'm talking about. You have these travel buses to the dock in France. So we went through Belgium, through France, and it was nighttime, unfortunately, so we couldn't really see much of those places. I would have really liked to have seen more of France. But we went to this dock, and the bus drove onto a ferry. We took the ferry across the water. That was the first time I ever did that. That was a very interesting experience. Really wish I would have documented more of that. But nevertheless, we took the ferry to the UK, and we explored London, and that was pretty much that. I mean, we were only there for about a day and a half, but I want to say it took us, between the bus ride and the ferry and all the stops that the bus had to make along the way, it probably took us around 8 to 10 hours. 8 to 10 hours to get from where we were. I think we actually left from Den Bosch. So from Den Bosch to London, right across the river from that big, what's it called, Ferris wheel, or the London Eye, I think it's called. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Took about 8 to 10 hours. You can drive 8 hours west from where I'm sitting right here in Lewisville, Texas, and you'll still be in Texas. Okay, you will still be in the same state, much less a different country. So, I mean, most people here have never actually been to other countries. And if they have, it's literally a once or twice in a lifetime kind of thing. The only real exception that I know to this rule is my aunt. And shout out to my aunt. She's kind of the one who got me curious about seeing these different places, because when I was younger, she took me to Mexico and Turks and Caicos. And in Mexico, we went to a resort. In Turks and Caicos, I think we stayed on this other resort, but it wasn't really the same kind of resort. We left the resort and actually walked around. And I actually preferred that trip because we got a chance to really see what Turks and Caicos was like. And that really helped to cultivate that initial curiosity about seeing these different places. But again, those two trips were kind of once or twice in a lifetime types of things. I didn't really think I was gonna see other countries after that. But upon arriving in Europe, I realized that all of these countries are just accessible from where I am. So there's no reason to not go and see them. And truthfully, I think my biggest regret, and I'm going back to Europe at some point, so it's not like I won't have the opportunity to take advantage, but I think my biggest regret about those 14 months is that I didn't travel more. I really wish that we had seen Paris, Berlin, maybe Poland, maybe doubled back to Switzerland, or even saw Spain again, because there are so many amazing places in Europe, There are so many amazing places in Europe, and they're all in close proximity, but they're so different from one another. It's so strange to me that places can be that close to each other and yet be so different. Spain and the Netherlands, while they do have some commonalities, obviously they're both in the EU, they use the same currency, things like that, they're completely different. It's a night and day difference. And while a place like Dallas and LA are very different from each other, they're still kind of the same. Fundamentally, they're the same. If you remove the mountains and the palm trees and the beach from LA and you turn the temperature up by about 20 degrees, it's pretty much the same place, more or less. Spain and the Netherlands and Switzerland and Belgium and the UK, those are all completely different places that you can get to within probably a 1 to 2 hour flight.